Mistie Knight is a truly magical woman, and she represents so many facets of magic. She shines brightly. Living in Las Vegas and credited as a proven magic partner and leading female magician, this former Miss Las Vegas performs magic in her own distinctive way. She's articulate, effervescent, intelligent, musical, funny, beautiful, and likable. Along with her partner and husband Kyle, she's enjoyed success after success with magic and shows that are quality, proven entertainment. Mistie wears many hats and is a consultant, a scriptwriter, an illusionist, a manager, an agent, a magician, and a wife. With boundless energy and focus, she isn't afraid of hard work and to do what it takes to make her magic and shows the best that they can be. Mistie and Kyle's laser focus, creativity, and talent account for their winning the grand prize on Wizard Wars. Mistie is here today to talk to us about her strengths, her challenges, and her relationship with magic and her husband. Welcome, Mistie. Thank you so much for participating. I'm so excited to speak to you today and to finally meet you in person.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to meet you too.
Can you tell the viewers, did you have any stage experience before you started? Because I think that's an important key.
I did. I had been playing the piano my whole life. When I was in college, I was part of a vocal and rhythm ensemble, and we would actually tour and perform. And I had also competed in the Miss America organization. And there's a lot of misconceptions about pageants and things. And it's not even officially a pageant anymore because they've gotten rid of any aspect of physicality. It's all based off of talent and interview and education things. And when I competed, it was 40% talent, 30% interview, 35% interview. So it was still heavily weighted on those things. And paid for my college. I got 30 grand in scholarships. And along the way, they taught me great skills about public speaking and how to be comfortable on stage. I did interviews all the time, so that's definitely carried over now. And I definitely attribute being able to just kind of jump into the show without being a dancer or anything, just because I had the experience from that.
You had stage presence. You knew how to stand. You knew how to be articulate. You knew, and I think that brings a diversity that makes you more interesting, because a lot of female partners are dancers. But the fact that you are very well spoken and articulate, I think that makes you much more interesting and intriguing.
It's funny because we've really evolved a lot over the years. And I appreciate you for those kind words. Thank you. For the first, I would say up until about 2008. So for the first 6 or 8 years, I really tried to fill this void of what a traditional assistant was. And I learned all this choreography, and I did okay because I was a cheerleader. So I had experience in rhythm and things like that. But I learned pretty quickly that I didn't want to try to be somebody I wasn't. And I had tried that for a while. And I'm not a dancer. I am a speaker. And I played the piano, so we said, put this in the show. We were actually doing a tour in Europe where the audience didn't speak English. So we were really shuffling the show and taking out the verbal things and adding more visual, and the piano was a perfect fit. And it was at that time that I started speaking in the show too, actually translating the show in Spanish, because I can pick up languages pretty quickly. And it ended up being, a saving grace for us that summer, because these new additions to the show helped us get through a difficult demographic, but they also changed the whole scope of what we would be going forward. The audience really responded to it. People started coming up and saying that they appreciated that I was not in the background, and that they could see that both of us were equal performers.
With the balance, yeah.
And they liked to hear me speak because they saw that I was a person and not just another prop on stage. And not to diminish anything that other people do. You have to be who you are. And every show has a different, balance of the different characters in the show. But for us, this was the best fit. And so we never looked back from that point. And it was just being true to myself and not trying to be a traditional assistant that was, a dancer and really showy. It was just more about just being Mistie and just letting them see me and not being afraid to be vulnerable. I think that's a good thing too, especially when I was trying to speak languages.
Yeah, if you're real and you're sincere, and also I think that also complements your relationship. Did you subscribe to our Magical Woman channel? Come on, you can do it. Subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you'll be aware of future Magical Women talks. We keep hearing from various very successful guests like yourself that being true to yourself, being realistic about what you bring to the table, using what you've got, your skills that you've got, and applying those are, I mean, that's key to success. And those are hard things to analyze, but if you can find that secret key of what the audience like about you, what appeals about you, then you've got a good chance that likability factor is going to be there and you're going to succeed.
Yeah, I believe that the opposite, in the sense that if you're trying to be something that you're not, you're going to lose them because they can sense that. And you see that often with performers sometimes. And, I can see that in our past videos of ourselves as well, trying to be somebody that we're not. It just, you don't have the same connection with the audience.
Right. Yeah. But it takes, it's very difficult to be vulnerable in front of people that you don't know and to take a risk and perhaps fall flat on your face. I mean, that's very nerve-wracking. And so it's easy to fall back into what people are sort of expecting or what the stereotype is. But I think if you take that leap of faith and you're able to find out who you are on stage, I think that it makes, I mean, it's the difference between a good performer and a great performer.
Mm-hmm. It was, you mentioning that kind of reminds me, talking about being scared, reminds me of probably one of my most proud moments on stage. And it was back in 2016, 17, we were doing a tour of Europe, and we found out literally days before. And I've always been really good at communicating with people in advance to find out what we had coming. But for some reason, we had not found out that our audience was not going to be just a little bit Italian. It was going to be entirely Italian. And this new version of our show, that's a fly-on show, No Illusions, it's very heavily based on talking and them understanding. There's actually a lot of mentalism in the show. And I knew Spanish enough to translate. And so I just gave myself a crash course for a couple of days with Italian because it's quite similar. And that's all I did. I just locked myself in the room and just practiced. And then, oh my gosh, I'm getting scared even thinking about it right now. Getting on stage and just literally translating the entire show, bilingual. Kyle's doing it in English and me following up with the bits in Italian and asking questions in Italian and getting them to answer me in Italian and using this, crucial information to make the show work. It was so scary. And, molto bene. It worked. and I will never forget being so proud of myself, and Kyle too. He was like, I'm so proud of you. But we got standing ovations from these Italian audiences. So I think they could tell that I was, just doing my best, but they understood the magic, that we were able to carry it through. And I think being vulnerable and not being afraid to just apologize in their language if I messed up,
Yeah.
And it was something that they appreciated.
I completely agree with that. I've performed a lot overseas, and I always make a huge effort to speak in the language of the country that we're in, especially because, like you, I did audience participation pieces, and you can manipulate them. Visually, you can get things to happen, and there's a lot that you can do that helps to influence their decisions without a lot of unnecessary words. And one of the things I learned, I don't know if you learned it, but one of the things I learned working abroad is that a lot of times in the United States, we talk too much. And sometimes you don't need to speak as much as you can say with less words and get that effect across. And I learned that overseas because, I was always doing these grand setups and stories. And then I went, okay, wait, I don't need that. I can set it up, with 3 or 4 words and a photo, It's like,
yeah, that challenge was presented to us when we did Franz Ferrari's House of Magic in Macau. We were there for 4.5 months, and this was, at that time, they had said 0 talking. Like, they don't want any talking in the show at all. And that was huge because that, I felt like, was our strongest suit. That was the one thing that kind of made me be more than just, in the background. So that was taken away. And then we had to learn to communicate without words. And it was so fun after we started to understand that it was working. The routine that we did in our virtual show, we call it card skewer, when we do the rope, and we developed that many years ago, 15 years ago, in these afternoon shows on the ships. But then we took that and made it nonverbal when we went to China, and it became a completely different routine. It became almost a comedy routine.
Right.
because he made his expressions really big, and it almost just, you could tell I was just trying to one up him every time I would add something. And they began laughing throughout this routine. And the same thing happened with nested boxes. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world when another box would come and another box would come. So it was a completely different experience doing this non-verbally and almost becoming a comedy act. It was weird, but it was a good challenge.
Yeah. And I think for any of the viewers watching, that it's really important how adaptable you are and how you're willing to change your performance from one venue to the other, from one country to the other. And I think that adaptability within even the same routines is really important.
We really learned that was the name of the game for success for us. And for that particular routine that we call it card skewer has had so many different versions. We actually have, so that stage that we were performing on in Macau was a smaller stage. So we actually shortened the length of the rope to be able to perform in that scenario. And because it changes the visuals of how it looks. For the big stages, we would have a longer rope. We would have different scripts depending on where we were doing it. We've even done that in walk around close-up magic settings where we would be doing over a banquet table. We would take the rope and stretch it across the table. And then Kyle's done it too in a different version where he changed it and just made it a knife, but it was the same kind of concept. So just taking that routine and making it adaptable for the different audiences and the different demographics has been a good little thing to have in our back pocket.
Yeah, and it gives you more confidence because then you have different versions. You're not just locked in to the version that you are comfortable with, that works.
And that helped us with virtual, because here we are presented again, either you're going to sink or swim, and we had to rely on the ability to adapt. And it didn't seem that scary to us because we'd done this so many different ways before. And actually in the virtual show that we did, I learned on the spot another way to adapt. Okay, the mic goes out. This person can't speak to us in the middle of it, but I don't want to stop and get another volunteer. I want to keep the momentum going. So I just on the fly figured out how to get them to communicate non-verbally with us with their fingers, and it worked.
It was brilliant. And it showed what experienced seasoned performers you are, because it would have thrown somebody that didn't have your experience, but you could just see that you didn't even think about it, just ping pong, and you were, and I went, whoa, that was really cool.
The important thing is making the audience, I don't want it to put somebody in the spot and make them feel bad because like they've done something wrong. And I also want to keep that momentum going. And so that was the key of what was the most important priority. And you do what you got to do.
Now, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Come on, you can do it. We need subscribers to obtain more privileges with YouTube. So please, please hit that notifications bell. Spread the word and comment. We love to hear from you.